Hi guys, welcome to Adam and Kath's Book Club.
I'm Adam.
I'm Kath.
And we're book readers.
Well, listeners, we've been
Yeah.
using Audible, and this month our book is The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood.
You might have heard of her from the hit Hulu series The Handmaid's Tale.
And in our research about her, we actually found out that there was several operas and a movie in 1990 about this book.
But none of it was reviewed that well, so...
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really look into it, but I'm also surprised. I feel like that kind of stuff would have popped up before, or maybe I just wasn't in the loop. But
No,
it's interesting.
It's too feminist.
I didn't realise there was so much adaptations of this thing already.
I mean, it's such an old book.
I mean, it is. It came out in 1985.
Yeah, it's really old. And it's only getting a sequel now in 2019.
Yeah, and I think it's based on the really vast popularity of the show has finally pushed her into being well, I need to explore the rest of this world.
Yeah, because it doesn't seem like it ever took off from any of the other adaptations.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we've been listening to it on Audible. We're not sponsored.
Yeah, I finished it on the 15th of March. When did you finish it?
Last night.
Last night, yeah.
But
that's when you finished
had been watching the show.
Yeah, okay. We're not doing an adaptation review. We're just doing a book review. If you haven't read it, or if you're watching the show and you don't want spoilers or anything, I suggest you finish the book or finish the show or get up to date before you listen to this. And if you just don't care, just listen away.
We're going to be talking about spoilers. It's the book club.
Yeah, we're not going to go completely in depth about every part of it, but we're going to talk about the parts we liked the most, the parts we didn't like, our thoughts. So if you'd rather just have more knowledge on the subject before, take a break, come back to us. Otherwise, we're just going to jump into it.
Yeah, we're going to jump into it with story.
Yeah, so story-wise, I thought it was super interesting.
Yes.
Basically, what happens is it starts off, it's in America. It's based in Boston, I think?
Yeah, Boston, Cambridge area, around Harvard.
Yeah, and we don't ever get to know the real name of the protagonist. She's just the handmaid, and she's known as Offred because she is she's property of Frederick.
Yeah.
So basically, Offred is what we're going to keep calling her for the purposes of this. Offred, it starts with her going to a new post as a handmaid, and you get background on her becoming a handmaid and a little bit of background on the society before it broke down and became this new one, the Society of Gilead.
Yeah, the book has a few time frames. You've got the past before it starts changing. You've got during the change, you get a few flashbacks. So that was just quite interesting.
Yeah.
One of the more interesting time periods.
And then up to date now.
You get up to date. You also get a few throwbacks to her training.
Yeah. And I thought it was a very interesting concept. You never get a full breakdown of when society started to crumble and change to what is considered present day in the book. But from what I could tell, I feel like it was over a span of maybe 10 years or less.
They mention her daughter being taken away at 3.
Yeah, and now she's still young.
Yeah,
but
8 or 9.
Oh, okay. Did they say 8 or 9? I didn't think they mentioned it. I just thought
I'm not
she
sure
looked
they
older.
mention it. Well, I know they show pictures of her.
Okay, well, so it's somewhere between 5 and 10 years.
Yeah.
Probably nearer to 5. And I just thought it was interesting how it goes from what we know of society now, or at the very least what we knew of society back in 1980 in America, and in such a short amount of time go to a complete, turned over new way of having a society. And it felt believable, I guess.
It feels so believable. It's very scary. It's kind of like a warning.
Yeah, I mean, I know we have a lot of we have a very volatile political climate as it is. For us in Ireland, it's kind of different, but in America, it honestly, it looks like a shit show most of the time.
Americans tend to be very divided at the moment.
Yeah. Yeah, it's wow. I could almost see this happening, I guess, in America, at least by today's standards.
It's kind of like a warning of what would happen if men had too much power.
Yeah, that's kind of. It kind of feels like that's part of the message Margaret is trying to send. It's a cautionary tale.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we see her. She starts off as a handmaid, and we get to see her past, getting taken into this school that's been turned into a learning centre or a Red Centre.
Yeah, it's called the Red Centre.
Yeah, and you basically get taught by these older women who have taken on the job of training handmaids. They're called aunts, so like an auntie, and they teach you basically how to be a quiet, obedient breeding machine.
Yeah, you're nothing but a whole, I guess.
Yeah, it did actually take a little while in the book for it to acknowledge that's all they were for, pretty much just breeding. I expected them to say it outright, but I kind of knew that was what it was going to be from trailers of the show.
I kept expecting them to also have to be like, cleaners and stuff, but no, they have separate older women for that.
Yeah, like there are women called Marthas who are basically like cleaners slash cooks, and everyone has like a color scheme, like the handmaids wear red.
Red, yep.
The Marthas wear green.
The wives wear blue.
Yes, the wives wear blue, and I thought that was interesting because that's like a biblical reference, because like Mary would wear blue, and then Mary Magdalene, the prostitute, wore red. So I thought they were calling back to things like that in the Bible. And in this story, there is a lot to do with the Bible.
There are a good few... There's a lot of mention of the Bible. They don't always read out the verse, which is good because I don't want to listen to the Bible.
Yeah, but it is a lot of religious subtext and a lot of religious tones throughout. Yeah. Which I know we're not talking about this in relation as an adaptation, but you did mention wasn't as prominent in the show. Yeah. Yeah.
They're very anti-religion show. I remember one scene where they see a church and it's full of dead bodies, and if they had any respect for church religion, they wouldn't fill it with dead bodies. Because it wasn't like a synagogue, it was like a proper church. Yeah, whereas
in this book, everyone is religious. That's the whole thing. They are under God. They're going back to what they consider, quote-unquote, the old ways.
Yeah.
A simpler time.
There's like the secret police who are supposed to be like God's eyes, which reminds me of The Great Gatsby.
Yeah, and they call their soldiers angels as well.
Oh, that's
so like avenging
that still trips me out.
Yeah. So we see her education where they were all made sleep in were they bunk beds or just cots?
I think they were like cots, but kind of they were all in the same room.
Yeah, so and that's similar to a military or upbringing, or
they wear old military beds.
Yeah, so it would be like if you ever went to military school or ever spent any time on a military barracks or something, or even maybe similarly in a very bare bones utilitarian hostel, you would have an idea of what that would look like.
Yeah.
And then the ants would go around with cattle prods, and they would basically break you down until all you were was ready to be a handmaid.
It's very interesting that outside, even actually not including the wives, the ants were kind of the most powerful of any women.
Yeah.
And even they weren't allowed real weapons. They were given cattle prods, but they couldn't have guns or a knife or something. They weren't worthy of that.
Yeah, it was very much a man's world.
Yeah.
And the women were being gifted with authority. It wasn't like they had earned or strived for it. They were being gifted underneath men's supervision. Yeah. Which is uncomfortable to read,
It is. It's scary. It's
I mean, this was published frickin' 11 years before I was born.
Yeah.
And I only read it now at 22, and as a feminist and as a queer woman as well, which would not go over well in this fictional world.
I'd be dead.
Yeah, we would literally be dead, you would be dead and I would be made into a prostitute.
Yeah.
In this world.
Oh, Moira.
Oh, God, Moira.
Yeah.
No, that was horrible.
We'll get into her later when we go to characters.
No, we'll get to Moira soon. But I wouldn't say it was hurtful to read. I would say it was uncomfortable, but I still thoroughly enjoyed the book because
it's very striking to me that something that was written in 1985 can feel so modern.
Yeah, it really spoke to me now, in today's political climate.
I feel like it's something that could have been written now.
Yeah, for sure. And so that's why I feel like the sequel coming out this year is
it's going to be very interesting.
It's going to be interesting, and it's not going to feel like years apart. It's going to feel like just a direct sequel.
Well, yeah. It is set 15 years apart because, it's supposed to
be...
It
is, yeah,
I wonder if that means it's set in the early 2000s. What year is it supposed to be set in?
I'm not sure, to be honest. I feel like
they had computers.
I feel like a part of it was made a bit more futuristic because they had all that digital money and that was the only way to do it.
Yeah.
So... Because they switched over. Yeah, they switched over. They did have bank cards, but that became the only way to use your money was just bank cards.
Yeah.
So I guess with that modernization, maybe it was set a bit in the future, or maybe it was just set when it was, but slightly more advanced.
Yeah. Oh my god, that bank card period, what a scene! You're just what a chapter. She's like, okay, well, I'm gonna go use my bank. Oh, it's not working. Tries to call the police. Oh, that's not working because so many people are then calling to find out.
Yeah.
She goes to work. She gets fired. Women aren't allowed to work anymore. What a quick period.
That was one of the flashbacks.
Yeah.
And it was that was very hard to read because to be honest, if someone did freeze all of your assets that you didn't have physically with you, I mean, people can do that now. Yeah. That does happen now. And imagine just because you're a woman, or because you're a gay man, or because you're not a religious person or of a different religion, and they all just decide to freeze all of your assets.
Or give them over to your husband.
Or give them just to, like, your husband or something, and that's the only way you can ever use them.
And, like, yeah, you're lucky if you have an alright husband.
Yeah, that would be so scary. And, like, I cannot imagine that, because I don't like having cash on me much. I don't really like having... Because if I lose cash, it's gone. Whereas I can stop my bank card, you know? So, like, that really hit me, because it just made me think, God, like, if I just had everything in my savings just completely stripped away from me in one go, imagine
what bothers me is there are a few weeks of, like, yes, the government's gone, but they're not doing all this. They're not going that far yet.
Yeah.
And then in one day, women's bank accounts gone, women's jobs gone.
And, like, that's freaky, because basically what they had was a government shutdown.
Yeah.
And then suddenly all this crazy, awful shit was happening. And, like, America this year just had a government shutdown.
Yeah. They, like, lied and said it was, like, to do it, I believe, Middle Eastern, like, terrorism.
Yeah, I think there was a plot to have the government, most government members assassinated, and then in the power vacuum that ensued, people took over. The
military took over, yeah.
Yeah, and then a lot of religious figures pushed their way to the forefront, including one of our, not main characters, but most important characters, which is the man Offred is the handmaid of. His wife, Serena Joy, or at least that's what her name once was, as she was a TV personality who would sing in a religious choir. She later chose to become a political speaker pushing religious values and, you know, the nuclear family value and stuff like that.
Think of a feminist and then think of the opposite of a feminist activist.
Think of a woman who describes herself as a Menonist.
Yeah.
Yeah. A religious Menonist who feels like women should serve their Have you ever watched Girl Defined?
No.
Think of Girl Defined, but like wrinkly and on TV instead of YouTube. If any of you listening have seen Girl Defined, I'm sorry. I cannot ease that pain for you. But basically that's always kind of what came into my head. This is what Girl Defined would be in this society. But so basically she pushes for traditional marriage, and she pushes for the society of Gilead taking shape as it is, which is like all the men in charge, all the women are subservient, but there are different levels to subservience for the women. So basically it's like all the main leaders who are men, and then it's commanders and their wives, and then it's, what were the other men called, the lesser ones? Just guards?
Guardians.
They were called guardians. And then there were the eyes, who are the secret police, the angels, who are soldiers. There are doctors, who are always men, and they're still basically doctors.
And they this is very interesting, he can't look at her while he's
they're not allowed to look at them. There has to always be a screen in front, like for all women. You're just not allowed to look at them. It has to be very clinical. Then there are like, so there are also, what were they called? They were wives, but they had to do all the roles.
Not unwoman, econo wives.
Unwomen were econo wives. That's what it was. The unwomen are the women who live out in the polluted wastelands in the colonies. Because they're the ones who are exposed to like disease and pollution.
They can't have babies.
Yeah, they're all like infertile.
But then even then, there's a funeral procession for a woman who was an econo wife who had a baby, and then that baby like was deformed.
I think it was deformed. Yeah. So basically, it's like there are the wives of high-ranking officials and commanders. They wear blue. They are basically important women. They go for parties with other important women, and that's kind of it, though. That's sort of their role. They don't really do anything outside of that, at least politically, from what I read. They wear blue. Then there are their Marthas, who are basically kitchen women and cleaners.
Did they say what colour the ants wear?
The ants? I thought they wore beige or grey.
Maybe.
At least I feel like that's what they were wearing.
I just picture in my head wearing white for some reason.
Maybe. I never really thought of it. I always thought like beige, khaki coloured stuff. But I could totally be wrong.
Basic colours, you know.
I personally can't remember, but I'm sure like we can Google it.
I'm sure they had a colour.
And then for the low-ranking men, are just like, I guess, regular men who are allowed to have wives. Because you're not allowed just to have a wife or marry. You have to like prove yourself or get rewarded with the option to have a wife.
Yeah, I think you get and then when you do, you're given a wife. It's like all arranged.
Yeah. And if you're like lower ranking, you get an Akana wife. So they wear a mixture of blue and red and green. So they're expected to be your wife, bear your children, and do all the cleaning and the cooking and taking care of the household. Like they're basically an Akana wife because they do everything.
Yeah.
And then there's the handmaids who only go to high-ranking officials. They can't have more than one handmaid.
Yeah.
Handmaids are basically they're just breeders. They go to market, they pick up food, they come back, they bear children.
Yeah.
I think, is it just once a month they have to do a breeding ceremony on their most fertile day?
Yeah, I believe it's during their fertile period, and then like he reads from the Bible, and then they go.
Yeah, like they read from the Bible. It's all very much all
religious.
biblical.
He specifically reads Bible. There's a Bible story kind of similar to this, where there is a woman, I can't remember her name, who can't have a child.
Yeah.
So she begs her husband to sleep with her maiden to have them to get a child that way.
Yeah.
And well, it's obvious why they're reading that story, because that's what they're doing.
That's what
basically.
they're doing. And during that ceremony, he has sex with both of them, right?
Well, it's kind of supposed to be that the spiritual connection is with his wife, while the physical one is with
the handmaid.
So the handmaid like lies in the wife's lap.
Yeah.
So he's kind of like trusting and looking at his wife.
Yeah, like it's all very. It's creepy.
It's creepy.
And it's upsetting to read, and like it. Oh God, it's just.
Because it is rape.
Yeah, no, it's
like,
it's rape. Yeah.
The handmaids maybe consenting to it because they're not given a choice. Your choice is
it's
death
not real
or...
consent. It's coerced consent. Like they have no other option. They're gonna get killed, or they're gonna get sent out to like a wasteland. And even Offred rationalizes in her own head that it's nothing she didn't consent to. And I'm like, girl, you didn't though.
Yeah, that's
but I understand this is the only way she feels she can survive.
It's very interesting that the whole book's from her mind, so you see why she rationalizes things.
You get a very good insight into everything she's thinking and feeling.
Yeah.
Like how she's basically just a breeding machine and a piece of meat now. So she takes her own. The only way she feels empowered is by like stealing butter to use as face cream, because they're not allowed face cream.
Yeah.
In sometimes walking with like a slight wiggle to her walk to arouse some of the younger guardians.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, and this is like stuff that could get her killed.
Yeah, and she's just doing it because it makes her feel more powerful. Because
this is all she can do.
She's like, this is the only power I have, I'm going to use it.
Yeah. What did you think of the relationship between the commander and Offred?
I hated it. Oh, so
he was
uncomfortable.
Creepy.
Every scene, and then it's like the first time they kiss, and he's like, "Oh, I want you to kiss me with passion." As if, like, you're not in love here, bro.
Like, describe how that scene played out.
Well, she calls him to his office. I don't know if by then if he's drinking the first time.
I don't think he was drinking the first time.
Right. But like he invites her to play Scrabble, which is a big deal because women aren't allowed to read.
Yeah, and like she really like goes for it. She's like Scrabble, and she like claws, like clings to this.
Like she really enjoys it because it's something she's not allowed to do. She's not allowed to really use her mind, and she's getting to use her mind to play a game.
And like at the beginning, she felt like this was such an innocent thing. It could totally lead to her getting killed for sure if anyone found her out. But also, it was such an innocent act between herself and the commander, and I feel like she grasped onto that. And then it like actually hurt me when at the end they played Scrabble. She was about to leave, and then he says to her, "Kiss me," and you can just like she describes how her heart just kind of went like, yeah, I knew this was what was going to happen. And so she kisses him, and then he's like, "No, like kiss me like you really mean it." And I was just like, oh God.
And it's just like, yep, he wasn't looking for friendship.
Which I guess makes sense. Like he's in a society where he can't just leave his wife, and there's like no love there anymore, and it's just like bitter, and they hate each other. But at the same time, what can they do? So he takes solace in his handmaids, and it's not the first time he's done it, because that's why the last handmaid got taken away.
Yeah, which you'd think would make her get caught quicker, but it seems like she doesn't. They meet quite a few times.
They do, yeah, they do meet. Like I think they meet almost every night for a while.
Yeah, so well, after that, would be she continues to go shopping and live a better life.
Yeah, so a lot of the chapters sort of bleed together because they're very similar, or there are long gaps of time where she says that her day-to-day activities were very much the same.
Yeah, I think not long after that, though, we get glimpses into the past when they try to escape.
Yeah, so basically they tried to escape over the border to Canada.
Yeah.
It was herself, her husband, and their child.
Yeah.
And her husband, she was his second wife. And in the taking over of the Gilead Society, they annulled all second marriages and said they didn't count. So that's why they were separated. And all like second wives and stuff, if they were breedable, they were taken to be handmaids. Well, they were actually given a choice, but the choice was literally be a handmaid, die, or go to the wastelands.
Yeah.
So you can see what a lot of them probably would have chosen.
Yeah. They tried to escape, but they got caught, basically.
Yeah, they got caught, and like it was just harrowing the way it was described. Like they drugged her daughter when she was 3 or 4.
Yeah.
So because she was going to make too much noise otherwise, and it just looked like she was sleeping.
And they killed their cat.
Yes, they killed their cat because they couldn't just leave it. And otherwise it was going to arouse suspicion if the cat was meowing all the time and people caught that they weren't home.
And they had to leave all their belongings pretty much behind because it couldn't look suspicious, like they were going somewhere long term.
I think, was it that Luke got out of the car, her husband, and then something seemed off so they ran all together, or did she and her daughter run?
I think they all ran together.
And I think they got separated, or
they
she
get
heard
separated.
a gunshot.
They did get separated.
But like they did get caught. So she has throughout the whole book, she has no idea what's happened to Luke at all. She gets shown once
one picture of her daughter, a woman who she doesn't know.
Yeah.
Presumably she was given up for adoption or something like that to one of the higher ranking families.
Yeah, because like she was considered clean.
Yeah.
So if a kid isn't like diseased or like proven to be deformed or something, they just get sent on.
Yeah, and if a baby is born and it is deformed, I believe they kill it.
Yeah, I think they kill them.
And then a lot of babies are just born as miscarriages anyway.
Yeah, they call them unbabies.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
so,
that was...
what a creepy society. And that's harrowing, especially because in Ireland we just had our huge abortion referendum.
Yeah, we just had our abortion referendum, and it's just kind of like...
And they're killing people, doctors who aborted.
Yeah, if you're a doctor in this society and you have ever performed an abortion procedure or ever performed a procedure for like a Planned Parenthood or something, they kill you and execute you for your crimes, despite the fact that you haven't done it now under this new society, because you are retroactively guilty for anything you have ever done before that.
Yeah.
So like a lot of people got killed and executed for being doctors that were saying things they didn't like, doctors who did abortions.
So I'd say most of our doctors who are left were doctors from the south. Am I right?
I wouldn't know. I haven't been there.
Yeah, I wouldn't either.
But like a lot of also anyone who was gay were killed as well. And a lot of people who were like in the closet and stuff, if they were ever caught, they were killed as well. Except for some of the women who were sterilized and then sent to a place called Jezebel's, which is a brothel. Which
is what happened to our good lesbian friend Moira.
Yeah, we hear about Moira a lot throughout the story. She was best friends with Offred in the past life. And then Offred went looking for her a lot. She was sent to be a handmaid like Offred, so for a while we got to see her there. And then Moira tried to escape, and then after that you never see her again. Until Jezebel. So there's years of Offred's life where she's just wondering what happened to her friend. She did a good job
of escaping, to be honest.
She did do a very good job. She just got caught.
In the end, yeah, her last safe house, it was like the last place before Canada, and then that's where she got caught.
Yeah.
So it's just like, well, that sucks. And then she ended up in Jezebel's.
Which is, that's just awful.
It's so fucked up that they say like some of the women there weren't even prostitutes beforehand. They were like lawyers and doctors.
They were like high-ranking people,
smart women
who got pushed into this because it was all they were considered good for anymore in this society. Like, were they clever women? Were they powerful? Were they rich? Were they kind? Were they compassionate? Could they do all kinds of things? Were they artists? Did they have amazing abilities? Sure, but they were women. That doesn't matter
because they're women.
Yeah, like it amounted to, but you're women, so you're lesser, and this is what we will make you do.
Marry you because I'd say maybe some of them were given the option to be married off and didn't take it.
Maybe.
But yeah, it just sucks, especially when it's a lesbian woman being forced to have sex with straight men for their pleasure. Like, that's awful.
Like that was hard to read. And like, don't get me wrong, I really liked this book.
Oh, I love this book.
But it's one of those books that you read and it really makes you like think.
Yeah.
Because this book doesn't just feel like a perversion of what our society is now. It feels like if you tip the scale a little bit, is this something we could become someday? And that's scary to think about.
What's scary for me is I think some people could read this and not see a problem.
Some people could totally read this and think, well, you know, if it was my society, maybe I would make it this way. And they would think it would be like a utopia.
Yeah.
And that in itself is sick.
Because here's the thing, most of the issues in this society come from the war they're in the middle of.
A war that I'm pretty sure was just invented.
Yeah. But like, I just love the idea that tourists came over to see this. And then asked, like, can we take pictures of you? And it's like, and then they have...
Oh, yeah. The scene where I think they're Japanese tourists and they come over and they visit.
And they're wearing their normal clothes, of course.
Yeah, they're wearing just normal everyday clothes. And then they have a translator and they ask the girls, are you happy? And they have to answer, like, yes, we're very happy. And then they have to keep walking because if they say anything else, boom, executed. Yeah,
the secret police will find it and they're gone.
It's kind of like... You know how some Americans go to on holidays, like to Korea, but like South Korea, not North Korea?
Yeah, I mean you can go on holiday to North Korea. But...
I mean you can, but do you want to? Because what if they ask, hey, are you happy? And they're like, of course I am. My supreme leader makes me happy every day. It feels like a flip of that. Like you have these Asian tourists coming over and they're the ones in a free and liberated society.
Yeah. It kind of makes me think of when... Americans might go to a predominantly Muslim country where women usually wear like clothes that will cover their
wearing
body.
Like a hijab or like a burqa or like a niqab, I think they're called as well. The ones that they
cover up their bodies though, and then there are Americans going around in like bikinis to the beach and stuff, and it's just like an interesting thing to see Americans be the ones now who are covered up while foreign people are coming in wearing whatever they want because they're in free countries. And I just like, why would you go to a war-torn country though on holidays? Like, where are these Japanese tourists at?
I mean, we don't know what the rest of the world really is like. Yeah. In this book,
I think the rest of the world don't know a lot of what's happening.
The extent, which is the same could be said about, like, I'm not trying to get political and racy here. I'm just saying the same can kind of be said about North Korea.
I guess
because we don't really know what's going on in there. It's all blocked from media. Yeah. And like China as well have a lot of strict rules about internet and internet sharing, and if you like post problematic things, you can go to jail. Yeah. So
we know parts, we hear tales, but we don't know everything that happens in North Korea or China.
Oh, also still in China, if you're a lesbian woman, they refer to each other as comrades, and if you're gay in China, you can still get arrested for that. Yeah. Yeah, and imprisoned. Like that's still going on now.
I think the country that's hosting the Formula 1 races this year are also the country that's legalizing killing gay people by stoning.
Yay. I didn't know that. Now that's a thing I know.
Yeah, isn't it fun?
Okay.
But yeah, so
wow, that has bummed me out, you guys.
So basically the relationship between the commander and Alfred is not a relationship.
It's not a real relationship.
They continues each other. He takes her.
He lives vicariously through her. Yeah. A lover relationship that he doesn't feel with his wife anymore, and his wife as well uses Offred in another way. She needs Offred to have a baby because that means she gets to be a mother. That's the thing that happens. The handmaids give birth, and then the wives become the mothers.
But so that's not working for Serena because her husband seems to be infertile.
Yeah, and like that's something you're not allowed to say in this society. Like men are not able to be infertile. It's a strict fact. That's impossible. Men can't be infertile. It's always the woman's fault. Yeah. Even when it's not.
So wouldn't that be an interesting twist if this whole time no women were infertile and it's just the men they were with?
I mean, I wouldn't be shocked.
But basically, Serena offers for Offred to have sex with Nick, a gardener / guardian.
Yeah, like he washes the car and stuff. Nick is actually not a double agent. What I mean when I say double agent is he works for the commander and the wife. As in, the commander uses Nick to signal to Offred when the commander wants to see her. Yeah. And also, the wife has Nick have sex with Offred.
To try and produce a baby.
To try and make a baby. So that, they can start looking good towards the higher-ups.
Yeah, otherwise it looks suspicious if they've gone through 3 handmaids and not had a baby.
Yeah. So, as a reward, I think, for Offred saying yes, Serena is the one who shows her the picture of her daughter.
Another picture. It's a different picture.
Oh, it's a different picture?
I believe she was shown a picture originally when the daughter was taken away.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, then a new picture, and she's older. Yeah. And so that has in Offred's mind, oh, thank God she's not dead. But at the same time, it was almost easier for her to think she was dead.
And now she's thinking, well, does she remember me? Which she probably doesn't.
So, if anything, it's just she hurts even more now, knowing her daughter is out there living a life where she has no knowledge of her mom.
Yeah, and she also gets a cigarette, I think.
Oh, she's also given a cigarette, but she doesn't use it.
She considers eating it.
Yeah, she has a match that she's given to light the cigarette, and she hides it for a later day when she doesn't actually ever get to use it. But yeah, so she basically goes through the motions. She carries on her relationship with the commander.
She keeps going shopping with Off Glen,
who
we then learn
who was actually the second of Glen by the time we meet her.
Yeah, but she's the one we spend the most time in the book.
We do spend the most time with her, and she's actually a member of the Mayday.
They're called the Maydays or something like that.
The Maydays, like it's either the Mayday Revolutionaries or just the Maydays or something, but they used the term Mayday to signal to each other who they are. Yeah. And she tries to say it to Offred once because she can kind of like feel it that Offred's not, a fanatic. That's what Offred says. There are the fanatics who are the true believers, and then there are the people who are just living in the society trying to get by. It's
kind of like, not to be political, but in Catholic Ireland, condoms were banned in the 80s.
Yes, they were.
And people just kind of had to go along with that and have lots of babies because the higher-ups believed in this Catholicism stuff.
Oh, Catholicism.
Oh, fun. But yeah, it's kind of like that, People don't necessarily agree with it, but they just go with it.
Didn't want to get arrested, and they didn't want to get executed, so they just had to go along with it in order to survive.
Yeah.
So Off Glen is sussing out if Offred's a true believer or not, and slowly over time we do get to see this slowly unfold.
They build a trust. Yeah.
They build a trust, and they start like going by execution sites and talking, and then one day it literally breaks, and they're like, "Wait, like you're not a believer? No, I thought you were a believer. No, I'm not a believer."
Yeah, they go to like a printing shop or something, and she says something about, "Do you think God believes or God's real?" And Offred's like, "No," or something.
Yeah, like she really calculated. She takes the risk by saying no, and then Offred's like, "Oh, thank God."
Yeah.
Atheism.
So then they realize they can trust each other, and tells her all about Mayday.
And like says that if you ever need us, say Mayday. Like if you ever need to get a message out.
And then when they're walking home after that, a van stops near them.
Yeah, and they freak out.
Scares the shy at them, but some random man with a briefcase gets arrested.
Yeah, basically these black vans with an eye on them are the secret police
vans. They're kind of like a weird FBI thing.
Yeah, so basically just imagine a really big government van comes by, pulls you into it, and you're gone forever. That's what these eyes do.
Yeah.
So,
and they have they have weird security clearance where they don't get searched at checkpoints or anything.
Yes.
Because people are too scared to
they're not really allowed to get touched.
Even the guards are scared to look into it, so they don't even look at the vans.
That's one of the things that Offred says is good about the society. Like women don't have to worry about getting raped anymore outside of the coerced consent, handmaid stuff. Yeah. Women don't have to worry about getting assaulted and walking around on their own because no one is allowed to touch them because everyone is afraid to touch them now.
Plus, as everyone knows, as long as you're covered up, you'll never be raped.
Yeah, like, if you were wearing exposing stuff, it would be your own fault and you would deserve it.
Which happens with Janine. They're all told to say that it's Janine's fault she got raped.
That's one of the things they get in the Red Centre when they're being trained to be handmaids. They have to talk about stuff in the past, like if you were raped or if you were assaulted, you need to say it, and then you need to say why it was your fault. So there's this girl named Janine who's a bit of a bitch apparently, but she got gang raped at one point and she has to describe the experience, and then they have to ask the whole group, "Okay girls, tell me why this was Janine's fault." And that made me sick.
Yeah, it's disgusting. Something else we've had in Ireland recently.
Yeah, like every time a woman gets assaulted here and it's a public thing in like the media,
they showed a woman's underwear in court and tried to make that out for a reason it's her fault.
I remember being in work once in the staff room and they were talking about that, and one of the women was like, "I think that she's just putting it on. I think she did something and then she regretted it, and so like, she got what she got and she deserved it." And I was just looking at my coworker and like, oh my God, one of my not old adult female co-workers saying this, and just me sitting there, and another one of my female co-workers sitting there who she's like 22, and she was just like, I feel like she didn't deserve that, but at the same time we don't really know, and I'm just sitting there like
yeah.
because, like, I don't know, I just did not want to be in that situation. I put my earpods in and I was just like, I'm not listening to this.
Yeah,
I'm not listening.
It's, like, insane that people can still think it's a woman's fault, or that they asked for it, or were leading the man on in this day and age, the year of our
There
Lord.
are too many factors for you to just be like, oh, well, she was wearing this and that's, you know, whatever.
Or she was wearing nice underwear, so she wanted to have sex with someone.
If a girl goes down the street wearing a black t-shirt and a black pair of jeans and a hoodie, and she has a thong underneath it, that is not her inviting rape.
Yeah.
Now, sorry for that tangent, but
it just shows how
it's
political
a touchy subject for me.
It shows how political this book can be, though, even still today.
This book it resonates with so many things going on in society, and that has been going on in society.
And she has
years.
said that. Margaret Atwood said that. The sequel's called The Testament. She wrote a short description saying the book is based on questions she's been asked, but also the society we live in today.
Yeah.
So, like, ooh, call them out, sis. Like, she's 8 years old, and this is the sass she's given it. Like,
Margaret
yes.
Atwood, though, is a freaking badass, because, oh my god, she was born in, like, 1939, right? And she went to a university in Canada. I can't remember the name of it, though.
But then she also went to Harvard.
Then she went to Harvard, and she's released... I don't even know the number of combined works she's released, but she's released like 17 books of poetry, 16 novels, 10 non-fiction novels, 8 short fiction novels, 8 children's books, and 1 graphic novel. And I'm just like, okay, slow the fuck down, please. But also, she's in her 80s, so she's had time. But oh my god.
She didn't do this fast. She did this over time. But yeah, she's gotten loads of awards too. Like she's such a talented person. Of all the freaking
big dick energy bibliographies you could have out there, Margaret Atwood has the most serious one I have ever fucking seen.
It's definitely inspired me to go back and read other works by her.
I am like, oh my god, Margaret Atwood is like my god now.
Yeah. But,
you know, whatever.
That's
She's
all.
just a cool lady.
So, back to the story.
Back to the story. I'm sorry, we're getting so off topic here. This is going to be a long episode. This book, okay, compared to our last book club, which was a book that was like 20 hours long, this book is only 10 hours long to listen to. Yeah. But there's just so much that resonates and connects to it, and it's like
I just love the little details too, like when people are hung up, they don't usually put words there, they put pictures of the events, like,
because you're not allowed to have words. Having words gives you too much power.
Yeah, women aren't supposed to be able to read.
Yeah, they want you to be illiterate so that you can't like form sentences on your own and like connect with other people and send messages. Like, it all has to be word of mouth, and if it's word of mouth you have to meet, and if you meet you can get caught. Yeah. So that's like, it's a very the control and the grip that this society has on everyone in it is just ironclad and intense and fascinating to read. It was great, and it was really interesting.
So back to my point. The supermarkets have pictures of the food they sell.
Have pictures.
Instead of having the name of what they sell, all their tokens, they don't have money anymore, they have tokens with pictures for what you can exchange for them.
Yeah, like, you're not allowed to have cash anymore. It's all a token and exchange. It's like a barter system.
So, like, could be pictures of eggs or steak.
Yeah. Like, it's basically like someone took, like, play tokens out of, like, a little kid's shop toy and exchanged those instead of money, because money is worthless now.
And women shouldn't be like going around carrying money, because what if they don't buy the thing they're supposed to buy with it?
Exactly. So that's why it's tokens.
Yeah. It's interesting, there is allegedly a black market, but we never see it.
Yeah, there's allegedly a black market. We never get to see the black market, but we do get to see black market things, like how Nick has cigarettes.
Yeah, and so does Serena.
Yeah, Serena has cigarettes too, and she smuggles cigarettes in. And how you could just, certain things people have, and you know there was a crazy way for them to get them. Like, books and libraries are not a thing anymore. A lot of stuff is just burned or blacked out and gotten rid of in this kind of society because they don't want you to get anything. And there's also a lot of revised works, so it's like, oh, this is totally Great Expectations, but it's all about being a good wife to your husband, because they changed everything about it, and that's what it's about now. So like the commander would have books and magazines, like women's magazines you would see in like a hairdresser's or something, and he lets Offred read one, and she like devours it. Like, she goes over the whole thing.
Yeah, I think, was it Vogue?
I think it might have been a Vogue.
But I just love how it's real magazines anyway, so she probably, if she had any interest in it years ago, would have already seen it and read it.
Yeah. Or
it just doesn't matter, because like, what if Kim Kardashian was in it? Well, Kim Kardashian ain't living in this society.
No, she's not. But yeah, so the commander and Offred have their secret meetings. Offred and the wife have their collusion for her to get pregnant, so she goes and sleeps with Nick one night. But then her and Nick just keep sleeping together for a while. Not for any real love reason. It's just because that's a connection that they have together. That's one thing they can do. She suspects that Nick might either be a secret police member or he could be a member of the Resistance, and she never really knows until with the end of the book.
Yeah. I mean,
but even then, it's not
we'll
confirmed.
get to the end of the book, but like even then, you don't know for sure if he was lying or telling the truth.
Yeah. So, as that's going on, there are also these public rallies that you have to go to. All the wives, all the daughters, all the handmaids. Do the Marthas have to go?
I don't know. I feel like everyone has to go. All the women have to go.
Yeah, all the women basically have to go. And so, all the handmaids have to kneel on cushions or on the ground in front of the stage. And then all the, like, wives and stuff get comfortable chairs and stuff. Yeah. And the Akana wives get, like, these uncomfortable chairs. But they get to, like, sit on a chair. And so that's for, like, public announcements and public executions. And also, marriages.
Like, marriages, yeah.
So they basically pair off these really young girls in white. Yeah, daughters wear white. Because they're pure and virginal. Yeah. And they wear veils.
Imagine the twist if one of the girls was her daughter getting married. Oh, I would die.
Oh, that would... Oh,
but that doesn't happen. That doesn't happen.
Sorry, we're just speculating. We're just like, oh my god, this is the perfect Handmaid's fanfiction story.
We were reading lists of books to have good twists, and I'm just adding twists to everything in my head.
We were looking at books to read next after this. But, like, we'll get to that at the end of the episode.
Yeah, but, so... Yeah, they're here for a marriage and then an execution.
Yeah, so in some of the executions, a lot of the time it is just people getting hanged. Which is, fair enough. But they make everyone watch. Like, they make you watch.
They
and
used
if you don't watch,
say why they were being hanged, but then they realized that led to repeat crimes or copycat
like
killers.
If you knew what they were doing, then some people would be, like, emboldened to do it as well, despite the fact they just saw the person get killed for it. So now they just do it.
Yeah, so they just have to hang them, and then the women have to hold on to the rope to, like, signal they're okay with it or whatever. Like, the handmaids have to.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. But then, for a rapist, which is what they say this person is.
Yeah.
They have the handmaids actually do the execution themselves with their hands.
They call them particicutions, so it's a participant execution. So basically, and this I thought was also a really interesting way of keeping control over all the handmaids, because they basically force all the handmaids to murder this guy.
And they use that to get out their anger. It reminded me of the Purge a bit.
Yeah, like they use it to help get out their negative feelings and help them express anger and rage so that they can still be quiet and obedient all the rest of the time. But also, if they make them bloody their hands so many times, when are they going to feel like they're innocent anymore? Yeah.
So they say he raped 2 handmaids.
Yeah, that's what they said.
And one of the handmaids was pregnant and lost the baby afterwards.
Which we don't think is true.
Yeah, that's supposed to be a big shocking thing. It's like,
and that's like to embolden them to be.
Kill him. Yeah. So then,
because like for every handmaid and every wife, the idea of a baby that could have lived getting killed is like, will send them into a bloody rage.
Because that's your entire point of existence.
That's like the whole reason they're alive and like still being kept around. That's their purpose.
So anyway, they're all put in a circle around this person and they're told to kill him. So Offglen goes in first.
Offglen goes in first. What she does is she kicks him in the face so many times he passes out and nearly dies, and then the rest of the women kill him.
And this disgusts Offred. She's so mad
she doesn't realise why. And then Offglen says afterwards, he was one of ours, he was one of the resistance. I had to do that. It put him out of his misery, so now he can die in peace. And Offred's kind of like horrified, but also like she understands.
She understands more.
And like I was just like, God, Offglen, that's got to be hard. She had to basically murder her friend. So that, and like...
Me and I friends, but like comrade at least.
Yeah, at the very least a comrade, yeah.
And it's just like, you have to like make sure this person... And it's putting them out of their misery, but like, it's so like fucked up.
So at this point in the story, we're basically getting to the end now.
Yeah,
and
very close.
Basically, Offred's walking home one day, and the door opens, and it's the wife. And she's looking at her, and she's just like, how could you? And Offred's just thinking, how could I what?
Did we mention Jezebel's?
Shit, we haven't mentioned Jezebel's properly yet.
Yeah.
Okay, so before this, we're backpedaling a bit. The commander one night gives Offred an outfit, and it's like feathers and sequins and skimpy.
It's a skimpy sequin.
It's like a quote-unquote slutty outfit.
Which probably is something that would look really cool and a girl might wear it on a night and actually look really nice in.
Yeah. So he gives her makeup and lipstick to wear.
Cheap makeup and lipstick
to wear. Also one of his wife's travelling coats, a blue coat, so that it doesn't look suspicious with him riding with her in the car. Yeah. Nick is the one who drives them to Jezebel's.
Doesn't she still hide on the floor at one point anyway?
In the car?
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know. I can't remember properly.
Yeah.
But so they drive off, they go to Jezebel's, and when they're there, she sees all these men and all these women in these similar outfits, so that it doesn't look suspicious for the commander to be there with a woman dressed like that.
Yeah.
and then she sees Moira.
Yeah.
So Moira's been her best friend for like most of her life, and she knows Moira's a lesbian. And has had relationships with women, is not interested in men. Moira's always been the voice of reason, or the person to like talk her up to do stuff she's nervous about.
They have a cool secret signal to go see each other in the bathroom when they need to talk.
Yeah, like when they were both in the Red Center together before Moira got, caught. Escaped, and then, whatever were to happen to her, they would find time to meet each other on bathroom breaks, but they would have to do it at like a certain time.
Yeah, because you couldn't be seen to have a friend because that would look suspicious.
Yeah, and you couldn't do it like at the exact same time every day because that would look suspicious. You couldn't do it too often because suspicious, and you can get caught and you could get punished.
Yeah.
And like the worst possible stuff could happen to you. And like Moira, as punishment for escaping the next time, got sterilized. She got her tubes tied or her womb removed. One of those.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think it's tube side. They say tube side a few times in this novel, so I think that's just their go-to.
And like all women who already had their tubes tied were automatically sent out to the colonies.
Yeah. Like
no matter what, like politically they could offer, they were already sent out because they were considered useless. Including our main character's mom. We see videos of her in the colonies, like looking dirty and sick.
Yeah, because the colonies are like filthy.
Yeah, she was like a feminist activist in the previous life, and then once Gilead, the society, took over, she just ousted and got put into the colonies, and that was hard for Offred to see videos of her own mother being mistreated in like a wasteland.
But yeah, so Moira, they meet in the bathroom. Moira's kind of like disheartened completely.
Yeah.
She like says Offred just kind of go with the flow and it'll make her life easier.
Yeah.
Which is kind of hard to see because...
Yeah, like Moira had been such a strong character and a rebellious character up till that point, and then when we finally see her again, Offred is like heartbroken to see that they've broken her.
So you kind of have to see now that Offred is already the only person now. She can't be inspired by Moira because Moira's broken. She's the only person that's been unbroken.
Offred had been holding on to the idea of her dead daughter.
Yeah.
And like her ghost being around her, so she could hold on to that, and the idea of her dead friend and the idea of her dead husband. Those are things that were frozen in her mind forever that she could always have, but now she knows her daughter is alive without her, and that's broken her heart.
She knows Moira is alive and broken, and that's broken her heart.
And she still doesn't know about Luke, but like she has this sexual relationship with Nick now, and she knows there's no love there, and they barely even talk to each other. They just have this one physical release to make the days easier, I guess.
Yeah. But so yeah, they go there, then the commander takes her to the hotel room.
Yeah, they go to a hotel room,
which is a hotel she actually had sex with her husband in when her husband was cheating on his previous wife with her.
Yeah.
Which is fun. But yeah, they have sex and she has to fake passion.
Yeah, like he says, come on, like I didn't think it was going to be like this, because she's just there lifeless, just waiting for him to get it over with, and so she has to like fake it then, and it's upsetting it was upsetting to read, but like it's just another reality of this.
But then after that she goes shopping. There's a new Offglen.
Yeah, and like she goes out and she's meeting Offglen, and there's this new girl, and she says, I'm Offglen, and so she realizes the Offglen's gone.
Yeah,
and so they're walking. Yeah. So they walk and they make idle chit chat, and she tries saying something that sounds a bit
like Mayday.
Like Mayday, and then the girl is like so unresponsive, so she realizes, okay, so she's definitely not part of the resistance, I shouldn't say anything else, I've basically given myself away now. But then she does say to her in like a very hushed voice, they hung her. Yeah. So Offglen, she didn't give anything. Well, she might have given something up, but she's dead now.
She hung herself.
Oh yeah, no, sorry, Offglen hung herself.
Yeah.
Our Offglen hung herself instead of giving up any information, because she knew they were onto her. It
relieves Offred because it meant no one can at least know about her now. Yeah. No one's torturing her to get information ever.
Because as we said, everything's word of mouth. There's no paper trail for anyone in their misdeeds. So if you don't have the direct source telling you, then you don't know. So she feels kind of safe, but at the same time, then she walks home.
And then the wife is at the door. How could you? She has the dress and she calls her a slut, I believe.
Yeah, like she looks at like feathers and sequins and she throws them at her, and she shows her travelling cloak and there's a smear of lipstick on it, and she's like, how could you? I can't believe he did this again. So clearly he did that with the last Offred as well.
Yeah.
And so she goes into the house and she goes upstairs, and the wife's like, I'll figure out how to punish you. And then later that night she doesn't go to the commander because he's not trying to get with her anymore, but she does go to Nick. And she tells him what happened, and he says he didn't say it then, but I think on the next day he says to her, I'm part of the resistance, they're coming for you, they're going to get you out of here.
This is you can actually, she hears the van coming.
Yeah, she can hear the van coming.
Yeah.
And so two men come in, and she doesn't know whether or not he could, because there's two options. He could be telling the truth, they're the resistance, she's finally breaking out, or they could be a member of the secret police and they're actually taking her away and they just don't want her to struggle.
What's interesting is Serena didn't call the police.
Yes, Serena didn't call, the commander didn't call, they both look very shocked.
Serena seemed to still want the baby at least.
Yeah, she still wanted any baby that might be coming, and she wanted to punish her herself.
Yeah, commander demanded a warrant.
Yeah.
And Serena wanted to know what crime she did.
Yeah, so what they say is that she betrayed
secrets of the government.
So then automatically the commander looks really worried and Serena looks disgusted with her, and they're just like, take her away.
Yeah.
And so that's where the story ends. The book doesn't end there, but that's where the story of Offred ends. It's just her leaving, and it's all very uncertain. So then it goes to like a public speaker at a university talking about the recorded tapes.
Way in the future.
Yeah, it's way in the future, talking about like historical accounts of the time of Gilead. So this is no longer the time of Gilead.
It's like the way we would talk about the 1700s.
Exactly. Like anytime we read a book that was published in like 1700 or something, and like it gets translated and it tells you what society was like, that's basically what the end of the book is. It's an analysis of what the time of Gilead was, and it's them saying, well, how do we know if this is real, and how do we know if they actually live like this, and what if this is fake? But there are a lot of other different accounts about the time of Gilead.
Fun to see it still being questioned 200 years in the future.
Yeah, so like we don't know if it's real or not, and this is the Handmaid's Tale is actually a book transcribed from tapes.
Yeah.
So we don't know if names were changed for like secrecy, or we don't know other stuff, but
and that's why it's kind of in a weird order. You're not sure exactly.
Yeah, that's kind of why it's in a strange order as well.
Yeah.
Like, I know we were going all over the place saying different bits of the story, but that's what the book is like.
Yeah.
There's no set linear timeline.
It's like, it makes it a bit hard to listen to, honestly. I'm wondering if it would have been easier to read.
Yeah, a few times I kind of felt lost, but it wasn't so bad. I did end
The
up
show is
again.
genuinely even harder to watch though, because there's stuff like the public executions that happens way earlier in the show. Well, this is in one of the last few chapters of the books.
Yeah, like with the show you can tell that they took a lot of inspiration, but they mainly did their own thing. I think.
Then, yeah, you haven't seen it, but even then we know for a fact there's a season 2 and a season 3 of the show, and I already know that what happens in the book is already in season 1. Yeah. So they just must have completely gone up with their own thing.
So that's basically the story of The Handmaid's Tale. I feel like we've gone on for a long time, but it was a lot to take in. Yeah. So, out of 10, what do you think you would give the story?
I'd give it an 8.
I'd actually also give it an 8.
Yeah. I don't agree with everything that happened in it. And sometimes it's just hard to have a belief in what happened.
Yeah, like...
And it's uncomfortable to read.
I think it's very uncomfortable to read.
But the main reason I'm taking points off is because not all your questions are answered, and that's hopefully something she'll fix in the Testaments. Coming this year in September.
I do feel like not all of the questions should have been answered, because that leaves some of it open just to like mystery. And, you know, when you're building a world, you don't necessarily build everything about that world. Like, there are always going to be some uncertainties. Yeah. Which is fine. But just for myself, while I really thoroughly enjoyed the idea of the story itself, the way it was written I really liked, and how descriptive everything was, it was just very hard to read. And that is like on my own personal hang-ups, because like for anyone who has ever dealt with sexual assault or like things like that, it's always going to be difficult to like consume media about it. So that's like my own personal thing, and that is in no way a knock against Margaret Atwood or her amazing writing skills or her like vast amount of very good works. Is literally my own hang up, so that's why I want to give it an 8. Yeah.
So the second section we'll be rating the story on is the protagonist.
Yeah, the protagonist. And I feel like it's not going to be hard. I found her to be an interesting, complex person, a survivor.
I love that everything is from her perspective.
Yeah.
You really get to know her.
You get a real in-depth insight into her thoughts, and like that's the same can be said for like a lot of books, because you always get it from their point of view or what they're thinking, whether or not it's written in first person or third person. But just for this one, I just thought so much of it was introspective thought, because it was just her walking, her in her room, her standing and listening to people. It was all very much what she was thinking all the time.
Yeah,
like that is one of the things I think will be difficult to translate to a visual medium like the show, like you said, because you don't have her inner monologue. And I feel like as a protagonist, she was strong, she was interesting, she was clever, she was a survivor, I'm giving her a 10.
Yeah. I'm gonna give her a 9.
A 9?
I just didn't... Sometimes I feel like she would go back and forth in decisions a lot or change her mind very quickly. And I just didn't always agree with either what decision she came to in the end between her options. And then sometimes I'm just like, okay, we get it. You're thinking of what to do with the match. You've gone through like 50 options in your head now. Just fucking... You're not going to do anything anyway.
I do understand your frustration with that. Like, I personally found it to be how I probably would have ended up thinking. Like, going over the option over and over and over again, because this is a life or death situation. Like, literally what you do with this one match is a life or death decision. And that's why I felt like it was appropriate for her to think that way, but I do understand why it was frustrating, and I did sometimes get repetitive, I will admit. So will we give it then an 8?
Well, 9.5.
Oh, okay, 9.5, that's fine.
Yeah.
So the next thing we need to talk about is the characters as a whole.
And I have words.
Oh, go ahead, I am ready.
Right, so you get some really good characters.
Yeah.
But then they're kind of broken. You get Moira. She's really interesting. You get to know about her as a strong person, and it's awesome that she's queer, but then, she gets broken down. She's not the same anymore. She thinks you should just, let whatever's happening happen. And that sucks to see, but, it's character growth. It's interesting.
Another thing I do love about Margaret Atwood's portrayal of Moira is she just shows her as a woman.
Yeah.
She's just a woman, and yes, she's a lesbian, but she's just a person. And, like, to be born in 1939... and to have progressive views like that, and to be like, fuck you, I know this is legit, this is fine, this is just people being people. I'm like, thank you, Margaret.
Yeah,
go, Margaret.
Like, how many people from 1939 would support lesbians? Or...
Like, I recently finished watching Mad Men, and they all fucking hated the gays, so...
Or even gay people, or even the idea of feminism wouldn't have been popular in 1939, which is the time she grew up in. Even then, I consider my grandmother very progressive.
Yeah, same.
But even then, me and her would have some issues over certain things, and she'd just be like, well, it's just a sign of my time,
Yeah, like, I consider my grandmother to be a very progressive woman, but there are some things that I feel like I wouldn't want to tell her.
Yeah, or even just things that you just know you're going to not agree on, so you just don't want to even talk to them about it, because it's just going to hurt. Like, it's never really something serious. Like, my grandmother wouldn't have an issue with trans rights or anything like that, but it's just like little things, and it's like, I don't agree with you on that, and I just don't want to talk about it. But so Margaret Atwood, awesome. It's so cool that she like supports all stuff from the time that she was alive. It's like she's 80 years old now.
Yeah.
Like, it's like cool. But I think a big weakness for the characters in this book is we have such a strong protagonist who we spend most of our time with.
Yeah, like, all of the characters around her kind of blend together, not because they're not written well, just because the protagonist themselves is just so much of a big personality.
And often she doesn't get to talk to people that often. Like,
yeah, she doesn't really get to socialise, so we don't get to say as much of them as we want.
It's so long before her and Glenn start trusting each other in the first place. You get a little bit of a few characters in the Red Centre. Yeah. You get more about Moira then too. The commander is... I am a commander and I'm using you for sex. Pretty
much, like, the commander just seems like a sad, lonely man.
Yeah.
Which he is, marriage. And that's... But, like, I want to say that the characters were good and that the characters were interesting and well developed, but we didn't have enough time with them to fully get all of that for ourselves.
I just think they lack depth.
I feel like she probably had entire like maps about the personalities of these people, but knew in the context of the story we were never going to get all of that because Offred was never going to get all of that for herself.
It's something that would probably be fun to explore if we were like back doing our Leaving Cert and this was a book we had for English. Yeah. Because there were essays like that for like The Great Gatsby. It's like you don't learn a lot about Daisy. Like, yeah. But like here, write an essay on what you think her personality is like.
Exactly. Like I would give the other characters like a 6 from what we get from them, not from what I believe they are.
Yeah, I'd give them a 6 from what I get from them, but you can't write a book without having more depth to your characters than that. Yeah. So like I'm sure it's there, and she probably has little hints to it that might be hard to pick up.
Like I'm convinced she has like entire lives completely thought out in her head for all these other characters. Yeah. It's just a case of
in the context we were of the story.
Offred and we were having these interactions, we never would have gotten all that from them.
Yeah, like for Serena, there's probably been years and years of trying to have babies for these two people. Yeah. Like, they're tired. But, like, all you get is Serena's kind of a bitch.
Yeah, basically. Like, we have Serena being a public speaker for, like, religious stuff, and then we get to see her change from, okay, she's got it, it's not what she thought it was going to be, and now she just has to live in the society because what else can she do?
Yeah.
And I thought that was interesting.
I think some of the female characters, I think Moira and Serena are interesting.
Yeah.
But a lot of the main, like Nick is nothing.
Nick is a nothing character, but like he doesn't need to be an anything character because all he needs to be for Offred is a distraction. That's all he has to be in her universe. So I guess I'm going with 6. Are you going with 6? I'm going to go
with 5.
You're going to go with 5, so 5.5?
Yeah.
And then the very last thing we need to rate on is individuality.
It's so individual.
I mean, for individuality, I'm giving it a freaking 10.
It's a 10.
It's a 10.
How often do you see something where society falls and it's not an apocalypse? It's not like zombies happened or there's been, like, I guess there's a bit of a disease in it, but it doesn't kill anyone. People aren't dying. It's not like Bird Box where everyone's dead.
Yeah.
You know, people are alive. They're being sent away by a new society. It's so interesting. And it's also interesting that, fine, we've seen worlds with different societies. Like, Game of Thrones is a different society to what we have. Mm-hmm. But they didn't have our society before that. It's interesting that there is a contrast. They had what we have, and now they don't. And it's so strongly feminist, too.
Yeah.
Like, it's great. It's like, it has a really strong message. It's really different. It's just something I don't think we see a lot of.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's just like, it's kind of a rare story.
Yeah, like the fact that you could get, I'm going to call it a dystopian society because it is after the breakdown of the world as we know it.
Yeah, but it's not like an apocalypse.
Yeah, exactly. That was refreshing for me because so many books right now and from the past have been about zombie apocalypse, vampire apocalypse,
or even just apocalypse. Big famines that kill so many people.
Yeah, like
the Hunger Games. It's post-apocalyptic. You don't think about it.
Yeah, it's because there was like a nuclear war and now all this like everything's gone to shit. Like the world had to get destroyed for this new society to pop up. Whereas in this one, it's literally just the society itself collapsed in on itself and ruined itself from the inside out, and now this is what we're stuck with. And I find that refreshing and interesting.
I just think it's also interesting that the rest of the world is still normal.
Yeah, the rest of the world is pretty much just going on as it was. And this is happening in America. No one's doing anything about it because it's America.
Yeah.
Like, just leave it alone, I guess, and see what happens.
Yeah, it's like, like they still clearly have a strong military force there. Like, those are the people who took over the government.
Yeah.
So, like, the military didn't disappear, so they still have
everything just sort of changed and became a perverted version of what it used to be.
Yeah. And it's just, like, it's just very interesting, and you do get a lot of world building in detail.
This whole book and society is basically just family values, religious values, put through, like, one of those funhouse mirrors. Like, what's being reflected back at you isn't what it is. It's like a disgusting, grotesque version of what you're putting out.
It reminds me a bit of Noughts and Crosses, which I don't know if you've read.
I've never actually read that.
It's similar. It's kind of like the conflict between black people and white people more racist. But in this world, black people were the people with power instead.
Okay.
And that's basically the world it explores, but similar to our world but different, you know.
Okay.
It reminds me of that. It's like looking through a mirror. It's like, what if?
Yeah.
So this is what if women had no power and the power was taken away from them. Well, whereas Noughts and Crosses is what if black people were people in power and they were the dominant race over
so like
people.
A role reversal.
Yeah.
I mean, that does sound interesting. I should probably give that a go.
Oh, it's a great book.
Yeah.
It's a great series. There's like 4 or 5 books in it.
Is that by Mallory
Blackman?
Yeah.
She actually wrote, I don't know if you've seen the new Doctor Who season.
No, I haven't.
She wrote the Rosa Parks episode for the new Doctor Who season. Yeah. Oh, it's a good episode.
Okay, well now I have to.
I was so excited because I was watching that season as it came out every day. It was the first Doctor Who season I ever watched live.
Yeah.
And that episode came on, and I knew about Rosa Parks. They'd been teasing on their Twitter, and then it just came up written by Mallory Blackman, and I was like, oh my god, I haven't seen anything from her since the Noughts and Crosses series.
So you had a fangirl moment.
Yeah, I just love Mallory Blackman. It was the first book we did for English in the junior cert in school, and I just loved it.
Okay, so this has been The Handmaid's Tale then. I really liked it.
Yeah, what did we rate it overall?
We rated it at 33 out of 40, which is high.
Yeah, it's a high score.
That is a high score. Like, we only have 4 points we really rate books on unless it's an adaptation, in which case we give it a 5th.
Yeah, but like books are rarely adaptations. It's usually the movies, the adaptation of the book.
Like, if there There was this book I read called Beauty, and that was an adaptation of the story of Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah.
So that one, if we were reviewing that, we would give that the extra criteria to mark it out of. Yeah. But for this one, this is just a standalone. This is a book that's just a woman has written. Yeah. So 33 out of 40 is pretty good.
Yeah, and it's something we would recommend reading if you haven't.
I would, I mean, I know I have my own personal hang-ups, but I don't regret having read this book, and some of the subject matter is hard to listen to and hard to read, but I don't think we should shy away from it.
Part of it isn't spoiled for you now.
That is true. But, like, if you wanted to read this, experience it for yourself, it's a very interesting read. If you want to just watch the show.
Like we said, there were so many details. You can watch the show. You get a different story.
Yeah.
Because there were 2 now seasons that just aren't based on anything happening in these books as far as I know.
Yeah, I mean, like, from what you've seen, it does kind of diverge.
Yeah. There are things that are in different events or things that didn't happen. Like, the Japanese tourists don't happen in the book.
Yeah.
Instead, you get an ambassador from Mexico who is a woman visiting.
Yes. And
then there's all this bullshit that she's in contact with her husband and all this stuff. Like, in the book, in the show, they're definitely going through this whole story of the husband still alive, and there's going to be contact with him, which is something we don't have in the book. Yeah, like, I wonder what is going to come out of this sequel, and I'm excited to read it, but, like, I feel like there is most likely going to be some sort of disconnect because it is set 15 years after The Handmaid's Tale. And it's where it counts from 3 handmaids, I believe.
Yeah, so it's going to, like, it's called Testimonies?
The Testaments.
The Testaments. So it's going to be testaments from all these different people.
From all we know, one of these handmaids could be offered, because I'd love to get more to her story.
That would be interesting. But at the same time, I'm also super intrigued by the idea of different handmaids and
3
their
different
experience.
Stories.
Yeah.
We've had the story. It's been an interesting story. I would love to hear 3 completely different stories, but I also wouldn't be opposed to hearing a continuation of the story.
Yeah, like, I'm happy to hear something of a similar nature from different people and how they saw the world, but I'm also totally down to hear more of Offred's experience and what she experienced after she left the commander's house.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was The Handmaid's Tale. I do recommend you read it if you want to, or experience the show, or, you know, there is a 1990 movie or several operas if you wanted to take those in. That are probably uploaded
online somewhere as videos.
Probably, like, there were opera runs in, like, a British opera and in, like, a Canadian opera. And
imagine if we, like, listened to it and then discovered, like, the soundtrack's bomb and we're just going around blasting the Handmaid's Tale soundtrack or something. Literally,
like, oh, this is rape scene number 5 and the remix is amazing.
Oh, great.
So,
rape. Oh my god, it'd be so fucked up.
Don't make me laugh about rape. Oh. I'm sorry.
Wow. But, it is fucked up.
Sorry, it's fucked up, like, oh my god. So yeah,
your head gets a little bit fucked up after reading this book, though.
But in, like, a great way. Like, this is, like, the best drug we could get. The serotonin I got from reading this book was superb.
Yeah.
But so that has been our review of Margaret Atwood's book, The Handmaid's Tale. She's got a lot more works out there. If you are interested in her writing style,
and there will be a sequel, of course, in September.
Yeah, there's a sequel. There are other books that she's written that I'm sure have very interesting topics that you could give a go. She has, like, her bibliography is massive. There is not a book out there she's written that I imagine you wouldn't want to read.
If you enjoyed this, you can leave it a like. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel, our page on Apple Podcasts, and our Spotify.
We have a lot of different platforms that we put out our content on for all different kinds of people, because I know there are different ways you like to consume media. Yeah. We do have a Twitter and we have an Instagram.
They're at Adam and Kath. It's going to be linked in the description below. And you can definitely follow us there. You can reach out to us there to give us your thoughts on the book or suggestions for books and movies we should talk about, or even queer topics for our other podcasts.
If you want to tell us what you thought of our review specifically, or if you want to tell us books you want us to read in the future, or movies you want us to talk about on our Film Club podcast, because we do have more of that coming out. We have big movies to see in the future, and we have more books to review in the future. The next book we're actually reviewing is The Forgotten Garden by Kate Morton.
So if you would like to read that and send us your thoughts on Twitter, that would be great too.
Yeah, we'd really love to hear from you, and, like, anything you want to tell us, let us know. Ask us yourself if you have questions. We are so open for feedback, and we just want to know how to cater more to our audience and the people out there who are enjoying our content.
Yeah, so thank you for listening. I've been Adam.
And I've been Kath.
Bye-bye.
Bye.